The situation surrounding Rick Harrison and the recent jail rumors is a striking example of how misinformation can spread like wildfire in today's digital age, blurring the lines between fact and fiction with unsettling ease. At the heart of the issue lies a combination of manipulated content, misinformed public perception, and the relentless thirst for scandal that fuels modern media consumption. The original flurry of posts that suggested Harrison had been arrested were not based on any actual legal events, but were instead the product of internet fabrication, concocted with just enough surface-level realism to make them plausible. Doctored images, some of which had been crudely photoshopped, showed Rick Harrison in courtroom settings or dressed in an orange jumpsuit, images intended to lend credibility to the baseless claims. In reality, these photos were cobbled together from either fictional scenarios on Pawn Stars or public domain images unrelated to Harrison, with his face pasted over actual defendants or prisoners. The edits weren't particularly sophisticated, but they didn't need to be. In the fast-paced ecosystem of social media, people rarely scrutinize images for authenticity. If something looks real enough and aligns with what a viewer is predisposed to believe, it is often accepted at face value. As these misleading visuals spread, their reach was amplified by the very platforms designed to connect us. Sites like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok became the breeding grounds for rumor proliferation. Algorithms that prioritize high-engagement content ensured that each shocking post, each misleading headline, was placed in front of more eyes than ever before. And because social validation plays such a crucial role in online interactions, each like, comment, or share lent an air of legitimacy to the false narrative. Before long, the idea that Rick Harrison had been arrested wasn't just a fringe conspiracy. It had become digital folklore, widely accepted by those who encountered it only briefly and never sought out the truth. Contributing to the chaos were opportunistic bloggers and pseudo-news websites, many of which operate with little to no editorial oversight. These outlets scrambled to capitalize on the trending topic, churning out content at a rapid pace in an attempt to capture clicks and advertising revenue. In their rush to publish, they regurgitated the same misinformation seen in social media posts, often without citing any credible sources. In fact, these sites would frequently reference one another in a circular manner, creating an echo chamber that gave the illusion of credibility. When one article claims, according to reports from multiple sources, and those sources are just other articles making the same unsubstantiated claims, it becomes nearly impossible for the average reader to distinguish fact from fiction. The repetition of falsehoods across multiple platforms builds a false consensus, reinforcing the idea that the claims must be true if so many places are reporting it. Even more concerning is the lack of accountability that follows such episodes. By the time reputable sources or Harrison himself issue clarifications or denials, the damage has already been done. People tend to remember the initial sensational story more vividly than the correction, which often arrives quietly and without the same viral momentum. Once misinformation takes root, it's difficult, if not impossible, to fully erase. This is particularly true for public figures like Harrison, whose reputation exists in the public domain and is constantly shaped by the media environment. A portion of the audience may forever associate his name with criminal allegations that were never real to begin with, simply because the rumor was so pervasive at its peak. Underlying all of this is a deeper commentary on society's fascination with the rise and fall of public personalities. The idea that someone successful might be brought low by scandal is irresistible to many. It offers a form of entertainment, a sense of balance or karmic justice, even when entirely undeserved. Rick Harrison, known for his role as the shrewd, often tough-talking patriarch on Pawn Stars, is a perfect target for such narratives. His on-screen demeanor, calculated, confident, and at times ruthless, feeds into the stereotype of someone who might have something to hide. For some viewers, the transition from TV tough guy to potential felon doesn't require much imagination, regardless of whether it reflects reality. It's not that people actively wish harm upon Harrison, but rather that the rumor provides a storyline too juicy to ignore. In a media environment increasingly driven by virality rather than veracity, these stories serve up instant drama without the need for substantiation. The technological landscape has also made it easier than ever to fabricate convincing media. With AI-driven image generation tools and voice cloning software becoming increasingly accessible, misinformation no longer requires technical expertise to create. A teenager with a smartphone and a few minutes of free time can produce content that, when seen out of context, could sway public opinion. And since the barrier to entry for content creation has all but vanished, these misleading creations can emerge from virtually anywhere and spread across the globe in seconds. This democratization of media production, while offering many benefits, also creates a dangerous vulnerability, one that malicious actors or even bored trolls can exploit with minimal effort and little fear of consequences. Ultimately, the Rick Harrison jail rumor isn't just about one man's brush with viral misinformation. It's a case study in how quickly truth can be overshadowed by sensationalism, how digital tools can distort reality, and how public perception can be manipulated through repetition and visual trickery. As society continues to grapple with the implications of living in a post-truth world, stories like this serve as a cautionary tale. They remind us that in the age of digital media, seeing is no longer believing, and that skepticism, critical thinking, and media literacy are more essential than ever. The wave of clickbait articles that emerged during the Rick Harrison jail rumor frenzy played a significant role in sustaining and amplifying the misinformation. These pieces, often hosted on poorly designed and obscure websites, bore all the hallmarks of digital tabloid sensationalism: provocative headlines, poorly sourced claims, and a complete lack of accountability. Their main objective was never to inform, but to attract attention and capitalize on trending topics, leveraging the popularity of Pawn Stars and Harrison's recognizable persona to drive traffic and ad impressions. Some of the stories were so outlandish that, under normal circumstances, they might have been dismissed outright. However, when presented amidst a storm of social media posts, manipulated images, and viral memes, even the most implausible claims gained a sheen of legitimacy. These articles spun an intricate and completely fictional web of events surrounding Rick Harrison and the gold and silver pawn shop. One widely circulated piece claimed that the store had been the target of a high-profile FBI sting operation involving illegal pawning activities, including knowingly accepting stolen goods. Another invented a story about a months-long undercover investigation culminating in Harrison's dramatic arrest during business hours, allegedly witnessed by stunned customers. The details were vivid and cinematic, too vivid to be true, in fact. But that didn't stop readers from sharing the content, particularly because the stories were framed in such a way as to provoke emotional reactions. The use of anonymous sources and references to supposedly leaked documents lent a fake air of credibility, even though no legitimate news outlet corroborated any part of the narrative. Perhaps the most egregious of these fabricated claims involved accusations of money laundering. According to several of these low-tier sites, Harrison had used the pawn shop as a front for moving illicit funds, working with a supposed network of criminal associates to clean money through high-value transactions. This claim was especially damaging because it played into familiar tropes about pawn shops and crime, exploiting the stereotypical view that such establishments often have shady dealings behind the scenes. The complete lack of evidence didn't matter. There were no court records, no investigative reports, and no statements from law enforcement. But the story's sensationalism made it irresistible to readers seeking drama. What made these articles even more insidious was their deceptive formatting. Many mimicked the style of legitimate news outlets, using formal language and even fake bylines to give the impression of professionalism. Some would embed unrelated news videos or legitimate articles in the sidebar, further misleading readers into thinking they were on a credible platform. In reality, these were content farms, operating with the sole intent of harvesting clicks from unsuspecting users. They relied on search engine optimization, SEO tricks, keyword stuffing, and attention-grabbing thumbnails to appear in news aggregators or social media feeds. The longer a user stayed on the site, whether out of confusion, shock, or curiosity, the more money the operators made from display ads and affiliate links. This kind of content thrives in the chaos of the modern internet, where the lines between journalism, opinion, parody, and outright fabrication have become dangerously blurred. Readers are bombarded with information from all directions, and with attention spans shortened by endless scrolling, few people take the time to vet a source before sharing or reacting to a story. The more outrageous a headline, the more likely it is to spread, and in the digital economy, outrage is profitable. In Rick Harrison's case, his fame and the public's familiarity with his image made him an easy target. The more elaborate the scandal, the more clicks the story generated, and the more revenue these shady websites collected, all at Harrison's expense. The damage inflicted by these articles isn't just hypothetical. Even if readers later discover the stories were false, the emotional residue lingers. Some people may continue to believe parts of the narrative or recall the scandal vaguely as something that might have happened. This kind of reputational erosion can have long-term consequences, even if it never touches the subject's actual career or legal standing. For Harrison, who has built a business and a brand on trust, expertise, and historical credibility, being entangled in baseless criminal allegations, even for a brief moment, undermines that foundation. It's a troubling example of how, in today's media landscape, truth often takes a backseat to virality, and how even the most absurd fiction can leave a lasting mark when framed as fact. These kinds of fabricated stories often mimic the trappings of legitimate journalism while discarding its foundational principles. The formula they follow is disturbingly effective. Begin with a jarring or provocative headline, something like, "Rick Harrison under criminal investigation," or "Pawn Stars Empire on the brink." Then pad the article with vague assertions and cherry-picked incidents twisted out of context. These stories frequently deploy rhetorical questions like, "What is Harrison hiding?" Or, "Could this be the end for the gold and silver pawn shop?" Such phrasing doesn't assert anything outright, but instead casts a shadow of suspicion, prompting readers to fill in the blanks with their own biases or assumptions. It's a tactic that avoids legal liability while still achieving the desired emotional effect. The lack of concrete evidence or verifiable sources is glaring upon closer inspection. Credible news reports would typically include direct quotes, official police records, court documentation, or at least a named source. In contrast, these clickbait stories lean heavily on anonymous tips, recycled rumors, and misleading visual media. For instance, repurposing a resolved zoning dispute as proof of criminal enterprise is a gross misrepresentation, yet it's framed in these articles as the smoking gun. Similarly, the use of a Pawn Stars episode where Harrison did the responsible thing by alerting authorities to a stolen item is twisted into a fictional account of law enforcement tailing him for an ongoing investigation. These distortions rely on the assumption that readers won't take the time to fact-check or even click beyond the first paragraph. A bet that unfortunately often pays off in today's information-overloaded world. Adding another layer of complexity is the cultural backdrop against which this misinformation is being spread. Reality TV stars have become synonymous with controversy, often because of the very nature of their public personas. Audiences have witnessed the downfall of various reality television figures, from financial scandals to substance abuse and even criminal charges. Shows like Here Comes Honey Boo Boo and Duck Dynasty have ended not just because of declining ratings, but because of off-screen drama that bled into public discourse. These precedents create a kind of Pavlovian response. When a new scandal surfaces involving another reality personality, it feels almost expected. In the context of Pawn Stars, a show built on haggling, the exchange of unusual goods, and the occasional brushes with law enforcement, viewers might subconsciously believe that something shady could be lurking behind the scenes. That misperception, rooted more in genre familiarity than in truth, provides fertile ground for false stories to flourish. The problem is compounded by the crumbling trust between the general public and traditional media institutions. With mainstream outlets often accused of bias, both political and corporate, many people now seek news and information from fringe sources that align more closely with their beliefs or suspicions. These alternative sources often package their content in ways that feel more authentic or raw, even if the actual substance lacks any factual basis. In Harrison's case, this opens the door for anyone with an agenda or desire for clicks to craft a narrative that resonates with a distrustful audience. The moment someone sees a headline that confirms a pre-existing suspicion, however minor or unfounded, they're far more likely to believe it and share it, thus contributing to the viral spread of misinformation. Despite all of this, the reality remains unchanged. Rick Harrison is not facing criminal charges, nor is he under any known investigation. He continues to operate his business, engage with fans, and make appearances without any indication of trouble from legal authorities. None of the stories alleging his arrest or involvement in illegal activities have been corroborated by reputable news agencies or official statements. These are easily verifiable facts, but they often get buried beneath the noise of social media, feeds, and manipulative clickbait. Harrison's approach to these rumors has consistently leaned on pragmatism and a touch of dry humor. His response strategy, engaging lightly when necessary but mostly letting the absurdity speak for itself, has proven effective in diffusing hysteria without adding fuel to the fire. His joke about needing a new pawn shop just to store the money he'd make from false arrest rumors is more than just a clever line. It's a subtle acknowledgement of the absurd media landscape we now live in. In refusing to react with outrage or defensiveness, Harrison not only preserves his image but also underscores a powerful point. In a world flooded with misinformation, calm, consistency, and truth still hold value, even if they aren't as flashy as scandal. Despite the onslaught of unfounded rumors, business at the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop continues to thrive, with a steady influx of visitors from across the globe. Tourists often travel long distances with the hopes of not only seeing rare and historically significant artifacts, but also catching a glimpse of Rick Harrison or other cast members. The shop's continued popularity is a clear indicator that the rumors circulating online have had little to no impact on the public's interest or trust in the business itself. In fact, the steady stream of visitors suggests that Harrison's visibility, bolstered by his long-running show and media appearances, may actually reinforce consumer confidence. The experience of walking through the iconic Las Vegas store, featured so prominently on television, offers fans a tangible reminder that the operation is very much alive, transparent, and above board. Rick Harrison's media presence extends far beyond the confines of his reality series. He's frequently invited to speak on a range of topics, from American history and economics to small business ownership, and even the regulatory side of the pawn industry. His calm demeanor and articulate insights have earned him respect outside the entertainment sphere, and he's often positioned as an expert voice in discussions that intersect pop culture with historical education or financial literacy. This multidimensional role in public discourse adds layers to his persona, making him more than just a TV star. It also reinforces the idea that someone so publicly entrenched in both business and media would hardly be able to operate under the radar if he were actually entangled in legal trouble. The fact that Harrison has been the subject of internet hoaxes before only adds to the absurdity of the current rumors. Over the years, he's endured a slew of false claims, from premature death announcements to outrageous stories of organized crime involvement and alleged family feuds. These narratives are typically unsupported, often bizarre, and yet they find traction due to the viral nature of online gossip. One especially persistent story falsely claimed Harrison was killed during a robbery at the pawn shop. Complete with fake news graphics, fabricated witness quotes, and photoshopped crime scene images, the hoax spread like wildfire, even prompting concerned fans to flood the shop's social media and phone lines. Yet no credible news outlet reported on it, and the story vanished just as quickly as it appeared once it was exposed for the fabrication it was. Such incidents underscore just how powerful misinformation can be, particularly when it targets celebrities. The speed at which rumors travel online, fueled by social media algorithms that prioritize engagement over accuracy, means that even the most implausible stories can gain momentum before they're debunked. When Rick Harrison's Family Matters became public in 2022, after the revelation that his late father's will excluded one son, tabloids pounced on the news with a frenzy. They spun detailed but unsubstantiated narratives about betrayals, potential lawsuits, and bitter rivalries, even though the only confirmed detail was a legal decision that, while personal, was not uncommon. The frenzy that followed illustrated the media's penchant for amplifying the most salacious interpretations of private family dynamics, particularly when those involved are public figures. As a result, Harrison has become adept at navigating the choppy waters of digital fame. He has learned to discern which rumors require a response and which are best ignored. This selective engagement helps him maintain his public image without giving undue attention to baseless stories. But his resilience also speaks to a broader problem: the increasing sophistication of misinformation. Technologies like deepfakes and AI-generated audio and video have enabled the creation of fabricated content that appears shockingly real. In Harrison's case, there have been entire videos showing what looks like him giving confessions or legal explanations, videos that were, in fact, completely artificial. This ironic twist, that a man whose career is based on identifying fakes is constantly targeted by fabricated content, has not gone unnoticed by his fans, many of whom find the whole situation both frustrating and darkly humorous. Still, Harrison remains vocal about the integrity of his business. He has repeatedly explained that pawn shops, particularly his, are subject to rigorous regulatory oversight. Items brought in are photographed, documented, and entered into law enforcement databases to prevent trafficking of stolen goods. There are waiting periods for resale, requirements for detailed customer records, and regular audits, all of which Harrison embraces as necessary and beneficial to the industry. His openness about these procedures not only underscores the legitimacy of his operations, but also serves as a direct counter to the idea that his shop could be some sort of criminal front. Most telling, however, is Harrison's continued visibility in public life. From social media posts to candid fan encounters at restaurants and local events, his presence is anything but elusive. His son Corey regularly shares photos and videos from the shop, many of which include Rick engaging with customers or examining new merchandise. These unscripted moments provide undeniable proof that he's not incarcerated, missing, or in hiding. On the contrary, they show a man still very much in control of his career and actively involved in his community and family life. These consistent, real-world signals debunk the jail rumors far more effectively than any press release ever could. Despite the frenzy surrounding Rick Harrison's fabricated jail rumors, the reality of his situation remains a stark contrast to the wild stories circulating online. As the rumors continue to spiral, it becomes increasingly evident that the thirst for scandal often trumps the pursuit of truth. In an era where viral content rules the day, sensational headlines and sensationalized narratives have the power to overshadow the real story. Rick Harrison, however, has shown a remarkable ability to not only weather these storms, but to emerge from them with his credibility intact. His continued presence in the public eye, both in his shop and through media appearances, underscores the absurdity of the claims made against him. The fact that his daily life continues uninterrupted is a testament to the strength of his reputation and the resilience of his business. The absence of any formal response from the History Channel is telling. The network, known for its careful curation of content and its desire to protect the integrity of its stars, has remained silent throughout the ordeal. This lack of reaction speaks volumes. If there were any truth to the rumors, a statement would likely have been issued. Instead, the network continues to air Pawn Stars reruns without any disruption or acknowledgement of the alleged scandal. This non-response is a clear indication that the allegations hold no weight, and Harrison remains an integral part of the History Channel's lineup. If there were any credibility to the rumors, the network's public relations team would have moved quickly to distance itself from the controversy or provide clarification. The fact that no such action has been taken only serves to reinforce the idea that Harrison is the victim of a smear campaign rather than a person involved in criminal activity. Beyond the media's response, first-hand accounts from visitors to the gold and silver pawn shop provide even stronger evidence debunking the rumors. Customers who have recently visited the shop have shared their positive experiences with Harrison, describing him as approachable, friendly, and very much present. These interactions, documented through photos, videos, and social media posts, serve as undeniable proof that Harrison is actively engaged in his business and is not, as the rumors suggest, behind bars. Tourists continue to visit the shop in hopes of meeting the famous pawn star, and many have been able to do so without any hindrance. These real-time testimonials highlight the disconnect between the fabricated digital narrative and the physical reality of Harrison's ongoing involvement in his shop and television career. In a world where outrage and shock value drive much of the conversation, it's easy to see why a figure like Rick Harrison would become a target for such rumors. His role as a pawn shop owner inherently invites scrutiny, especially considering the nature of his business, which deals with high-value items, potential stolen goods, and historical artifacts. This already precarious association with the underworld of stolen merchandise and shady dealings creates an opening for rumors to take root, regardless of their veracity. Yet, despite these inherent challenges, Harrison's public image has remained largely intact, thanks in large part to his straightforward approach to his business and his transparent communication with the public. He has consistently defended the pawn industry, emphasizing its regulatory framework and the legal processes that protect both the business and its customers. His willingness to address these issues head-on has earned him the trust of viewers and the respect of those within the industry. The ease with which misinformation spreads is another key factor in the proliferation of these rumors. In the digital age, a false report can go viral within minutes, especially when it's designed to elicit an emotional response. The outrage generated by the initial rumors can fuel the fire, driving further engagement and ensuring that the false narrative gains traction. This viral cycle is amplified by the algorithm-driven nature of social media platforms, where sensational content is more likely to be shared and promoted. As the story spreads, it often becomes more distorted, with each retelling adding new elements of intrigue or drama. By the time the truth catches up, the damage has already been done, and the original falsehood has become ingrained in the public consciousness. In Harrison's case, the initial rumor was enough to generate a wave of concern among fans, but the lack of a credible response from either the authorities or the History Channel has allowed the truth to slowly surface. However, the persistence of these false stories is also a reflection of the broader media landscape, where sensationalism often takes precedence over accuracy. In the rush to be the first to break a story, many outlets prioritize speed over verification. In this environment, rumors can quickly spiral out of control, fueled by a combination of unverified information and sensationalist headlines. The public's appetite for drama, especially when it involves celebrities, makes it easy for false claims to gain traction. In the case of Rick Harrison, the very nature of his business, where authenticity is constantly questioned, makes him an easy target for fabricated stories. But while these rumors may be tantalizing, they are ultimately nothing more than smoke and mirrors. For Rick Harrison, the process of debunking these rumors has been a familiar one. Over the years, he has faced various hoaxes, from fabricated death reports to false accusations of criminal activity. Each time, he has handled the situation with a sense of humor and grace, choosing to address the rumors when necessary while ignoring the more frivolous claims. This approach has allowed him to maintain control over his narrative, preventing the rumors from overshadowing his career or his reputation. His ability to laugh off the more outlandish allegations only reinforces the idea that he is a man grounded in reality, unaffected by the noise of the internet. Ultimately, Rick Harrison's story serves as a reminder of the dangers of misinformation and the importance of media literacy. In a world where sensational headlines often eclipse the truth, it's crucial to approach rumors with skepticism and to demand verification before accepting a story as fact. The speed at which falsehoods can spread highlights the need for critical thinking and discernment, especially when it comes to the world of celebrity gossip and viral content. For Harrison, the false claims about his legal troubles may be a fleeting storm, but they also shed light on the larger issue of how easily the truth can be obscured in today's media landscape.